Half a day, everybody. I'm Jason Salas. Thank you so much for watching or streaming. I have here on the KUM couch, of course, the one and only, His Honor, Judge Alberto Lamorena. Judge, very good to see you as always.
Same seeing you, Jason.
All right, a practitioner.
It's always a pleasure.
All right, likewise, and a practitioner of law with 36 years and counting on the bench. Also, the judge with the best shoes was a very, very nice judge.
Thank you.
And it is a wonderful time on Guam for, I can't say your line of business because, you know, the practice of law and upholding the tenets of justice and everything like that, it really is a passion and a calling, I would say. And these are interesting times we live in right now.
Very interesting, Jason. You know, these are times that have been, I'm glad that we have a U.S. Constitution because these are trying times for both individuals and members of our community.
They're testing it.
Yes, they are testing it to the limit.
But that is the point.
That is the point. I think, you know, when Abraham Lincoln said we are governed of the people, by the people, and for the people, he meant it. And the U.S. Constitution was first drafted by our founding fathers, meant it to be a constitution for and by and of the people. And it's up to us to make sure that these tenets are continued on from generation to generation. As Alexander Hamilton said in the Federalist Papers, he said that the judiciary is supposed to be the guardian of the Constitution. And I think here on Guam, we take that responsibility very seriously. In fact, we try to educate, we're out here to educate the public on what the Constitution is all about, what Jury Appreciation Week is all about, and to thank the many thousands of people that have gone through jury selection at the Superior Court of Guam.
And you just touched on it just there, Your Honor, because the civic obligation of being a juror, should we be called upon, is something that we as Americans are supposed to take very seriously. Many people do, but there's also juror appreciation time.
Yes.
You know, what's the context of that?
Well, the context, as you know, the Bill of Rights was written to protect the people from the government, okay, from the oppression of the government. That's why if you look at the various individual amendments, it protects the people from a very abusive government. And the Fifth and Sixth Amendments protects the individual from prosecution. Okay, so the Fifth Amendment, which states, you know, to set it broadly, states that nobody shall be charged with a serious crime by the government unless he's presented and indicted by a grand jury. And what composes the grand jury? Individual citizens in our community. Okay, they are the judges on who gets indicted or who does not get indicted. It's not the Attorney General, it's not the Executive Department, it's not anybody. It's up to the people to decide that. And then once a person is indicted and presented before the court, it's again up to the people to decide whether or not a person is guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Because nobody who's charged with a serious crime can be tried without a fair and impartial jury. And that's guaranteed under the Sixth Amendment.
Now, Your Honor, I just turned 50 this year, right? And I remember like kind of like in the 80s and 90s, kind of like the running punchline was that, oh, you got tapped for jury duty, you know, it's the same as getting a root canal. But I know more and more, especially young people, and this is very refreshing to see, that they not only see it now as an obligation, but an opportunity, a responsibility to ensure that our way of life is preserved.
Yes, and I think we get one of the things we get is that people know that jury service is important, that it protects individuals from government, okay? So if a person is charged and there is no crime to that charge, then he's set free, okay? And who decides that? That's a grand jury and a pettit jury. If a person, you know, is educated, he knows, he's aware of what his rights are. And third, you know, it's an educational process. It's an educational tool to the individual who serves, what is going on in the community and what it takes the criminal justice system to work. It depends upon us, the people, you know, that we are the people that to make sure that everybody gets a fair shake in their criminal justice system.
So since it is juror appreciation time, what is the judiciary doing to remind, the constituency and the citizenship of, how important this is.
Okay, and we've collaborated one of the few times where the three branches of government has collaborated. The governor and lieutenant governor passed a proclamation declaring this week a Jury Appreciation Week. The legislature, through the Speaker Talahi, also declared through resolution this is Jury Appreciation Week. And the Judicial Council also passed a resolution saying that we appreciate the service the jury has done to make sure our jury system works. And it's just to show our appreciation. Thousands of people have gone through the jury system. Mm-hmm. And just from year 2003, January to 2004, we selected 3,000 people, over 3,000 individuals were called to serve as jurors. We impaneled 86 jury selections. We had 8 grand jury selections, and we had about 1,400 to 1,500 people on our jury pool who are waiting to be picked as pettit jurors. So it's a lot of people, and in 3 years, it's got to the numbers of tens of thousands.
And the whole voir dire process is to make sure that you do have a jury consisting of, like, in theory, an equal number of your neighbors.
Yes.
And your countrymen that will determine, how the trial goes.
Well, jury of your peers is one of the principles. Secondly, to select a fair and impartial jury. That's why I permit lawyers to ask questions, because the prosecution is representing the people, and the defense counsel representing the individual. So I give the opportunity for the lawyers to ask questions, so they can at least they can, in their mind, select a fair and impartial process for their clients as well.
All right, well done. Okay, well, Your Honor, we got a few more moments here. So we also want to talk about Constitution Day. That is this week, and we've had you here on this very set several times over the years. It's always an honor to have Your Honor here. See what I did there? But what about the Constitution? Is there a certain amendment that this year's theme is kind of centered around?
I don't know, but every year we celebrate the U.S. Constitution.
Last year was the 6th, I think.
Yeah, the 6th Amendment.
Yeah.
But I'd like to emphasize what the Bill of Rights is all about. Mm-hmm. Okay. When the Founding Fathers ratified the main Constitution, that's Article 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it was to set up a form of government. And in Article 4 and 6, it did mention about the rights of individuals, but not completely. And so the Founding Fathers were not really satisfied about the articles. So they met again, and they passed the Bill of Rights. And what was the Bill of Rights? The Bill of Rights is a set of amendments, 10 amendments at that time, to ensure that the people are protected from the abuses of government. In other words, they list, if you look at the 10 Bill of Rights, 10 amendments of the Bill of Rights, it emphasizes the individual against possible government abuses. And that's good, because I think people of Guam and people of the United States should recognize that the Bill of Rights is their right. That's why I try to emphasize the 5th and 6th, which is the jury duty, because jury obligation, because the jury service is very important to protect the rights of individuals who have been brought before the courts.
Let me ask you, Judge, are we doing enough as a society, either in terms of, like at the education system? I remember when I was a freshman at Sanchez, we took a class all year in civics, where you would study at least in part the Constitution. Then by the time I got to my senior year, we studied government. You study the Constitution a whole lot. Even like in, say, roadside marketing, or in online. Do modern day Americans, and by association we as Guamanians, are we doing enough to educate ourselves on the Constitution and what it represents?
Well, people forget. Okay, we go to school, and how many people remember 7th grade math or algebra or trigonometry or physics that they were taught in high school? It's just like the Constitution. You got to always constantly educate the public on their rights and obligations. In order for the Constitution to survive, it depends on each one of us to ensure that we protect that document, that nobody is oppressed or there is oppressor to try to negate the Constitution. It's a document that is again, a law that governs all of us. And if we don't know what is in our Constitution, if we don't know what our rights are, if we don't even know what how our government is formed, then we're doomed, because then we are susceptible to people, telling us that the Constitution is not good. I think we survive as a nation for 250 years, and I think we'll survive as a nation for another 250 years at least. But it's up to us as citizens to be the guardians and to be the protectors of the Constitution.
That is our code.
Yeah, that is that's our obligation and responsibility.
Oh, very well put.
If we are to be free as a people, we got to make sure that the U.S. Constitution exists, because we are governed by the laws, not by an individual. And I fear that if there is not an electorate that is up to par and diligent in its obligation to protect the U.S. Constitution, then I fear that that would be set aside and we would lose those rights. And that's why I feel that Alexander Hamilton was correct. It's up to the judiciary to remind the public the importance of the Constitution, what the Constitution has to offer, especially the Bill of Rights, because the Bill of Rights specifically protects the individual from the government.
That's an even
the
more
abuses of government.
Absolutely, as His Honor just said, it's an even more critical time right now. Before you head to the polls for this election, review the Constitution. Very, very important document, literally the fabric of who we are. So, Your Honor, always a pleasure.
Okay, Jason, thank you very much for inviting me.
Always good to see you.
Okay, same here.